Here we go. All right, so we're about a minute into this semifinal. In the top left of site Delta, we do have MaxPax. And in the bottom right, we do have HeRoMaRinE. So, took a look at the bracket. Tried to track it while doing a bunch of other stuff. And apparently, Clem did not sign up today. So this is why we have a different semifinal. This one might actually look totally normal, but the other semifinal is pretty different because it's not with Clem. But it's also two Zergs. ZVZ, kind of rare. And so it's Lambo versus Solar on the other side of the bracket. I would give that to Solar, you know, a lot of the times, but the ping, the time, his recent performance in GSL, yeah, apparently Lambo did 2-0 him. So the winner of this moves on to the finals to face Lambo, who hasn't been to the grand finals for a hot second, but glad to see him there. Now, I do anticipate MaxPax winning this particular best of 3, as that's kind of what he does. If Clem isn't around, then it is generally MaxPax's Open Cup. Hasn't been HeRoMaRiNE's in some time, so generally, we do have MaxPax winning against HeRoMaRiNE, I don't know, over the last, like, year, maybe more at this point. So anyways, what is actually happening? It's impossible for HeRoMaRiNE to win out versus MaxPax. It just seems so extraordinarily difficult. MaxPax has a way of keeping a Terran honest and scared. I think a way that some other Protoss players don't do as much, just simply being him. The threat of the 48 is just at maximum. Whereas with basically every other Protoss player, it's scary if they are forgetting, but it's not going to be nearly as scary as MaxPax's. But this is actually the start of best of 3 with no Twilight Council. We are going with a Stargate opener. Now, MaxPax is going to be able to see that this was a, not a factory expand. Okay, so he's going to be able to see this was an expansion of some type. Now, this looks like a 1-Rax expand timing, because it would be, right? It's just that there is an absurdly fast third command center behind this. Does that look like a factory expand at that timing with the third CC? Shoot, I should have been paying closer attention. Well, so this is very important because HeRoMaRiNE is going 3CC into 3 racks. He's really doing one of the greediest things possible. Without that factory, you don't have that general, like, standalone unit that's just really good in a lot of situations, like the Cyclone or the tank here in this matchup. But if you bet that they will not be super aggressive, or that if they are super aggressive, it's going to come at a time which you could prepare, you find enough money, you build enough units just in time, well, then more power to you. And the 3CC can work against a 4-gate. This has been done by Clem versus MaxPax a couple times at this point. So apparently Clem is on vacation in Sweden, so he's worked his training regimen out in the hyperbolic time chamber, and now that it's so close to the Cell games, he's gonna just take a vacation to, like, get adjusted to his newfound power. I gotcha. It's just like Goku and Gohan. But seriously, good for him. Dallas is coming up in about 2 weeks, so I mean, I'm joking, but I'm kind of serious as well. This might be something that he likes to do, find as works for him. Anyway, he's not here. That's the important thing. So we got 3CC that has now been scouted. The Phoenix did not immediately go and scout. Did see that it was an expansion, and so while there could have been something behind that, yes, could have moved out. I mean, you know, it's not as threatening, I suppose, if this was a factory expand and the factory was seen, then you don't know if they're opening Cyclones and Vikings, or, I mean, some people might even still try and force a Hellion drop, but that's obviously kind of dangerous against a Stargate. But here, we doesn't actually know what his opponent is doing, so, you know, it could have been, but obviously one of the reasons that HeRoMaRiNE is not so intent on getting a lot of scouting done is that he's trying to be as greedy as possible. Not just with a 3CC build, no factory, but also with a lack of scouting, because you can waste a scan, or, you know, it's not wasteful, I guess, if it scouts correctly, but you can use a scan if you have 0 other scouting and you are worried. But in this case, HeRoMaRiNE, I think appropriately not worried. Once he saw that first Phoenix, it's probably a sigh of relief, just because this Phoenix opener does not kill you. It does harass, and if it harasses well enough, then maybe it can make up for the supercharged beginning of the Terran. The question is, has it? We're down by, what, 6 workers as a Terran player. That is being made up by 2, actually 3 mules. 3rd CC. Oh, no, kept it. I think I used one. Yeah, I used one. But anyways, 3 mules at a time in just a second here. Good scan of the observer. Take away those eyes. MaxPax, he's going to be looking for any opportunity possible with the Phoenix, but this is, I think, really about just making sure that your home base is properly set up, trying to get that macro as good as possible, because there was a large absence of any Terran pressure. Again, no Cyclone Opener, no Liberator, no Hellion Drop, no 2 base 3 racks that suddenly jumps on you. I mean, this was an uneventful game for the first 6.5 minutes. Now that HeRoMaRinE has Medivacs, your fear will start to rise, as we know that can be a time where Terran move out. But honestly, it's not the greatest army yet still, without a couple more Medivacs, because a couple more Medivacs mean multitasking. The Protoss now needs to worry about 2 different hits, and then it also means that the kind of sizable bio ball, because the barracks have been up for so long, they actually get healed. I mean, only 2 Medivacs on the entirety of the Terran army, if you're stimming into Colossus, can be a little low. So we got a total of 8 SCV kills, 10 SCV kills. I gotta say, the Phoenix have been pretty impressive. We did lose 1. And that is now maybe worth it. It just sucks that it happened when, like, those 7 workers killed. But, now we're at 15. And in total, 15 SCVs for 1 Phoenix, and I'm starting to be okay with it. It is more SCVs as time has gone on, and with the 30cc powering it, so, that's a good number. It's in double digits of workers killed in the first 8 minutes of the game, but you had so many. It's not incredibly painful, but I gotta say, we've seen much less damage done from the Phoenix player to the 3cc player. And you could blame HeRoMaRinE, I guess, if you wanted to, or you could just try and go positive and say that MaxPax's control over his Phoenix is very good, and that, we talk about control sometimes in the actual minute detail, like this is how they micro and it's really, really good. Sure, there is that. He is pretty good with Phoenix micro, but in this matchup, I would say it's just about how active you are. How often you go back to look at your Phoenix to actually do something while still macroing perfectly, as opposed to taking that extra second that a less good Protoss player would while fixing up their base to then go back to the Phoenix, at which time maybe they've lost a Phoenix, or they've missed the opportunity to do something with the Phoenix. Like, being active in StarCraft is a lot about being active to find an opportunity, not just to prove you have good APMs. So, clearly HeRoMaRinE, not even moving out with the 4 Medivacs, is planning on just going for a big old macro game. Upgrades are not going to happen particularly quickly, so that is what's missing here. No powerful 2-2 upgrade timing. Single engineering bay the entire time. And then no second engineering bay even now, as we get to that 4th base finished and we move on to additional barracks. MaxPax setting up a War Prism. At this point, has certainly caught up, or it feels like more like you could say that the 2 builds have reached their final destination, I suppose, and it's a whole new racetrack. Something along those lines, something analogy. But, the point is, HeRoMaRinE did get away with 3cc, and MaxPax initially did not know about that, so there might be a little bit of close guardedness, but I think he actually expanded pretty quickly. Like, his Phoenix did eventually scout what was going on, and then with all of the spotters that he has around the map, look at the amount of pylons and the Warp Prism, and the Observer was there before it was killed. I mean, MaxPax has tried to keep tabs on the Terran to maximize the macro. And that could be the really difficult part, because you don't know exactly if Terran is going to push into you or not. Unless you have, complete coverage over their army, which MaxPax wasn't looking at the army, but he had so many options for harassment and buying time. Like this Warp Prism, which does end up getting a secondary warp in. We'd have the army of the Protoss also almost maxed out, so there's really not a reason for MaxPax not to try and look for a decent engagement. This might not be it. Going through a choke into an EMP, Disruptor doesn't hit, and HeRoMaRinE is holding on wonderfully in general, I would say. Again, 8 more SCVs were killed, but that's when he's on 4 CCs, so 72 SCVs completely fine. 1 Colossus going to fall after the Disruptors have already been taken down. HeRoMaRinE feeling like he had a moment there. MaxPax is forced to flee back to some more reinforcements, and it looks a little dodgy, but both armies actually are quite injured. The Protoss army got EMP'd, and the Terran army has been stimmed twice, I believe. So, yeah, you got to be careful on both sides. But MaxPax, does need to make sure those disruptors are in play, at the very least to crowd control. I mean, the reason that he had to back away so... I was going to say cowardly, but that sounds really mean. The way that, because he had to back up, and HeRoMaRinE finally gets his moment to strike. Once again, great EMP on the heart of the army, and the Vikings are just bullying the Colossus. The disruptors are more important than ever. But anyways, the reason why HeRoMaRinE got that moment was because the disruptors are all gone. Now the disruptor count at 4. More rallying in here. Colossus is just a goner. Doesn't even get any more shots, and that can't happen. Vikings now feeling a little useless in the sky, and a pretty good disruptor shot, actually. But still a very weak Protoss army. The Terran army looking a little thin without those Vikings, but maybe just enough against what is currently here for the Protoss player. 2-1 for the Protoss. Also helping out just that little extra bit, and MaxPax absolutely needs it. He is on the ropes. He has poked the bear, and the bear woke up and is not very happy at all. HeRoMaRinE, realizing that he had the momentum, does not let it go. He's continuing to rally forward as well. When he finally deals with all the Zealots, he can rally another army forward. That is exactly what he has done, and while he does lose a couple more SCVs, he also finds a disruptor. MaxPax on the bad rally was also losing some of his own probes to the Vikings, which I believe finally have been cleared up. Now would be the time exactly to go back into Colossus. It is pretty simple, right? They don't have a direct answer to the Colossus. The Colossus can end up being pretty good. It's a lot more dependable than these disruptors, especially when the disruptors were at a lower count. Now they're at 5. That is feeling a lot better, but this is quite the concave. Good focus fire there from HeRoMaRinE. He is going to dodge away from most of the disruptor shots, leaving, I think that is the last one. Widowmine's also popping off, stopping MaxPax from ever trying to chase if he ever gets a moment. It looked like he thought there might have been a moment there, but it's a good thing he didn't chase, because there were still plenty of Marauders. All healed up, but the Medivacs are now out of juice. That is something that we got to pay attention to. Oh my god! Unless a huge disruptor shot hits. I was going to say, you got to pay attention to the Medivac energy, because this is going to be a tug of war. You got a lot of Marauders, you got the focus of the Terran player, ideally. Didn't actually happen. And when that happens, I mean, they can continue bullying you, right? They bully the Zealots. The Zealots run forward. They die eventually, even if they're pretty armored. They die, and then the Stalkers aren't really there to be fodder, so they don't really want to do that. They die, and the Colossus were not out, but even if they were, the amount of Marauders that were left over before that disruptor shot was pretty damn good. And now the Marauder number just continues to thin out, because a Medivac full of them just got sniped. MaxPax, knowing that once again he has a stable army, also having more upgrades. 2-3 for the Protoss versus 2-2 for HeRoMaRinE. HeRoMaRinE unable to get that upgrade advantage, although Marauders are once again back into play. Good concave as well. In fact, a surround, actually, on the left side. More Marauders than I knew HeRoMaRinE had coming in. Same for MaxPax. I think he had no eyes on that direction. He does have a run-by attempt to the 4th, but yeah, did not see coming up that hill. That was almost a great surround. MaxPax narrowly avoids being completely surrounded, and HeRoMaRinE too hesitant, thinking that was not the perfect engagement, but it's damn close, It's damn close. Whenever these run-bys are no longer a threat, the rest of this army is going to come in here for a big old surround. Here we go. More army coming in after the initial Terran forces have already done a number on the Protoss. Colossus once again evacuating, being chased for free by the Vikings. Not ideal situation. Speaking of which, Viking count is on the way back up. We still have 10 Medivacs, and they are getting some energy back, and we're about to be at 6 Vikings, which would be still not enough, actually. I want to go up to 9, but, the Medivac count's pretty good, and I do like this, just trickling in some Medivacs off your quad starport production can really go a long way. Whenever these Marauders are fully healthy, and again, there's so many of them, 24 Marauders, I mean, they're a tank. The only thing that really kills them is the Disruptor. The Colossus can't, and maybe Colossus and Zealots combined, but only if they freaking reach the damn things. The Vikings are, again, getting so many freebie shots just because the Stalkers aren't high in number, and they're being, controlled elsewhere and whatnot. It's, without the Disruptor shots, the army of the Protoss is going to fold, even with some slightly better upgrades. Without those Disruptors creating that space, I don't know, man. HeRoMaRinE comes in for a fight, but this was not exactly it. Very thin on the top side. No Medivacs on the bottom as well. Plus being kind of caught up with the Zealots. I mean, the Zealots might eventually die, but if they're also catching the units, stopping a big concave, then they're still doing their job. A worthy sacrifice. If all 5 of these end up dying, but they bought all that space, that is what the Zealot trains for 100 years. DTs have been threatening HeRoMaRinE this entire time. That's why HeRoMaRinE is maybe taking some bad battles or some bad disruptor shots. Planetary there to hold back. And that is his 5th base, by the way. It's turned to his 4th because that planetary did go down, and that is actually going to be it. The supplies remain even, but MaxPax had taken over the map, taken over the bank, and was going to start harassing him endlessly. And so HeRoMaRinE was down to only depending on one big engagement that goes so well for him that he like literally wins the game. And that was unlikely. That was unlikely. HeRoMaRinE was not getting that game-ending battle, although I would say he got close. He basically made MaxPax acknowledge how dangerous he could be in some of those back and forths, but in the bottom left now, up 1, it is MaxPax. And in the top right, we do have HeRoMaRinE. The winner of this faces Lambo in a best-of-5 something versus Zerd. We know that much. I would favor both of these players versus Lambo, but I would really favor MaxPax versus Lambo. HeRoMaRinE, I think, can be very good against him, but I think the ZVT is just more up in the air. Sometimes Lambo has really good ZVT, really dangerous ZVT. Sometimes not. His ZVZ remains one of his best matchups, and then there's ZVP, which I think Lambo, with his very analytical brain, I think maybe has like really strong ideas, but seems to not get the execution he desires. That's kind of what MaxPax is really good at doing versus any race, is making it so that the execution of the other guy is almost impossible to do 100%. If we call focusing intently on your army micro 100%, even though there's always mistakes to be made, MaxPax's way of playing makes you only like 90% effective or 80% effective or 0% effective because you're literally not paying attention and a disruptor kills 7 monsters. Oh, this is already a little bit tilting now too. You lost a game that was just frankly frustrating. It's just one of those TVP games where, I mean, there's a lot of frustrating things, I guess. But, you know, you could easily be frustrated by a game that looks like that last one, which is you actually had a moment, but a disruptor hits you and kind of ruins your moment. Like, I don't know if he was going to win exactly there, but he was definitely putting MaxPax on the ropes and then disruptor, right? And then you don't play necessarily a terrible game from then on, but you start to have to deal with all the Protoss BS, which is very much for them to use. Call it Protoss PS because it's so frustrating, but it's very much something they have to do. But the War Prism, the DTs, the multiple run-bys, the abusing disruptors for crowd control, like, it's part of the game. But it can be kind of a frustrating loss. And then into an SCV being killed by a probe. Ouch, get bibbles. Probe was recalled because it is worth it. It also got some really great scouting, so that it was a factory expand, and that is a factory. That is one very, very obvious difference between this and the last game. It's really unfortunate that HeRoMaRinE was able to get away with a 3CC. I mean, MaxPax responded very well, but HeRoMaRinE goes for that and then doesn't really get to, again, execute on the strategy. It's too bad. MaxPax really wanted to show how good the Protoss race can be. And if you're Protoss, that's great. And if you're other races, well, you don't, never know. Reaper is going to see that it is a Stargate and a Phoenix at that. So we're seeing the same opener from last game for our Protoss player. The Phoenix is a great middle of the road. It doesn't attack aggressively. And as far as defending a direct battle, like it's maybe not that great either. When that is a bio ball versus only the Phoenix. Okay, Phoenix don't want to take a direct battle, but everything in between. Helping out a little bit on the defense when there's a couple extra units and a shield battery as well. They're great. Going for harassment, obviously great. Scouting, eventually, also very good. Dealing with multitasking Terrans, great. Dealing with harassing Terrans, who are also trying to send units to harass you, like a Liberator, Reapers, Hellions. Phoenix can pick up a lot of those or take them out, and that's also great, right? So I don't want to ever say that going into Phoenix against like a 3CC player is going to be kind of, bad. I don't think it's bad, but it is middle of the road. And it's middle of the road versus, extreme. Sometimes that can be a bit dangerous. Especially if you're not really good with Phoenix. And there have been cases in the past, years ago, where like a 2-base 3 rocks did really trip up Phoenix players, even if they knew it was coming. It's been a while since that's happened. Now, these Phoenix are consistently scouting that this is a 1-1-1. Now, a tank popping out from the Terran player when you're clearly not going to be 4-gated, right, is something you want to pay attention to.
Apparently, you are doing something right, Captain.
Would he really just be building tanks defensively against a Phoenix player? Well, not for the Phoenix, obviously. They don't shoot up. They are kind of helpful when they go into Colossus, though, and that's the assumed next step here, which is correct. Now, if this was going into charge, low gas, and a lot of zealots, then this would maybe look a little silly. But if it is Colossus, and indeed it is, then Phoenix do not take on, again, a direct army fight. And while they are very helpful when trying to take down those tanks, take them out of the equation, for instance, with crowd control, they do need a lot of extra units with them. The Phoenix cannot do everything by themselves. And that's why an Immortal was pumped out. Second one's on the way. More Phoenix as well. I mean, just producing everything you can, because your production is kind of limited right now as the Protoss. Not a whole lot of gateways. Great snipe on the Cyclone. Doesn't lose anything in return. Maybe an Adept. Shield Battery is alone. And it's about to be pummeled by the tank. Yeah, so this is dangerous. But 2 Immortals now out. Shield Battery was able to boost them back up to full energy. But they do not have their hardened shield. So, yeah, maybe don't go in. What the heck is that? I don't even know what that sticker is. Anyways, third Nexus finishes, but without a shield battery to overcharge, I'm afraid this isn't going to be fixed. MaxPax thinking that he could take this on and actually save the third Nexus, because, well, sometimes you can. Might be wrong about it. Here we go. Phoenix from the backside, crowd controlling those tanks. One tank gets a shot in this battle. That is going to be it. Phoenix number is still pretty high, too. 2 were done in that battle, but you can see HeRoMaRinE very committed to this. No third CC, no technology. SCVs were pulled into this. He really needed to kill the third Nexus or get a really nice trade on the army supply, and he did not. MaxPax, how foolish was I to doubt him. Planned that perfectly. GG's. That is going to be it. Thank you, Seal Pop, for the 52 months. And now we have our finals. It is going to be Lambo versus MaxPax.